and said, hey, we'd like to come to your convention and talk to the folks. So, you know, there's something going on here, and I think it's really good. So let me tell you a little bit about Charlie Kirk. He's the founder and executive director of Turning Point USA, which is a national student movement dedicated to identifying, organizing, and empowering young people to promote the principles of free markets and limited government. Since the inception of Turning Point in 2012, Charlie's grown it from nothing to having representation on over 1,200 high schools and college campuses nationwide and over 150 full-time staff. At 23 years old, he appeared on Fox News, CNBC, Fox Business News over 200 times. He's a best-selling author, was the youngest speaker at the Republican National Convention, and he's a proud Eagle Scout. Closing out our Saturday speaker series is Charlie Kirk.
Main left.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with all of you here today. So I'm Charlie Kirk, born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. You know, usually when I get out of Illinois, I get to a better run state, but it's really not the case here. It's close though. It's close. Illinois and California are competing for how to screw up a state the quickest.
Yep.
I'll tell you what. So we have term limits in Illinois, a little bit different than most states. 1 term in office, 1 term in jail.
How true that is.
When we ask for our former governor's cell number, actually mean his cell number.
Yep.
My grandmother was a lifelong Republican, knocked on doors for Richard Nixon in the election that Kennedy stole in 1960 because of voter fraud, and she would never ever vote for a Democrat. She was making calls out throughout the 80s for Reagan, and she was in the north side of Chicago, passed away in the mid-1990s, and she's been voting Democrat ever since. So I am quite
Charlie
familiar
Kirk is
with
from
the
Illinois, Chicago,
evil
Illinois.
forces that were running our country the last 8 years. And so I started this organization when I was 18 years old, and with the help of many people in this room, we've really helped cultivate a youth movement around the values of free markets and limited government. And what started as kind of a counter to the Obama for America machine in 2012 has now really become a culture war. Make no mistake, the greatest threat to Western civilization is happening on our college campuses today.
Yes.
The greatest threat. Make no mistake. And college campuses used to be a place where different ideas were allowed and accepted, where free speech was fostered. Now college campuses have become a place where they want everyone to look different but think the same.
Yeah.
Let me say that again. College campuses have become a place where they want everyone to look different but think the same. Their idea of diversity are a bunch of people that come from different parts of the world, yet they all have the same structured viewpoints on particular issues. You know, I think of a conversation I had with a Columbia University professor a couple months ago, and I said, you know, your campus is not exactly the best when it comes to free speech. He said, what are you talking about? We're really good on free speech. I said, okay, well, give me some examples. And he said, in my classroom, we always had debates of who would have made a better president, Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. I said, that's not exactly. He's like, yeah, you know, we have all sorts of different sort of political stripes, Democrats and socialists and communists. And I said, okay, that's, again, aren't you missing a key component of that? Didn't really understand what I was saying. Without diving into it too much in the limited time I have, what's going on in these college campuses is a complete erosion of fundamental American values. And it's very easy to blame or to mislabel what's going on in these campuses as stupid. Like, oh, they don't know any better, or there's just a bunch of misguided administrators. It's not. Make no mistake, this is a targeted campaign by the left to try to redefine and to fundamentally transform America, starting in our universities. starting in our universities. And by no coincidence, as Republicans have become more and more successful electorally and politically over the last 4 to 5 years, you've started to see these campuses get even more out of control.
Yep.
And now I thought they couldn't get any crazier, and then I started to hear about trigger warnings and safe spaces and microaggressions and free speech zones. Does anyone know what I'm talking about here?
Yes.
So I didn't know about these a couple years ago, and obviously our group started to run into them more and more. And so, for example, a trigger warning. I didn't know about this until 3 or 4 years ago. Anyone know what a trigger warning is?
Yeah.
A trigger warning is you have to give aforementioned notice to other students or professors or students in your class if you're about to say something that might be deemed offensive. So, for example, trigger warning: Donald Trump won the presidential election, because that could be really offensive to a lot of different students. I laughed right after Donald Trump's successful presidential election, which shocked the world. All these universities that had these crying sessions, and they were giving weeks of school off because students were so offended. And I always laughed. I said, if you thought for a second if Hillary Clinton would have won that conservative students would have been given weeks off, give me a break. I mean, what they're doing is they're creating a generation so soft that they're walking around waiting to be offended by something. And they're programming them to look in every single word, sentence, or phrase or idea that might be expressed by a conservative and say, that's hate speech. That should not be allowed to happen. So what used to happen in the 70s and 80s, there was still this idea that, okay, I disagree with you, but I'm going to hear it out. But the left got really smart, and they said, wait a second, when we allow the free exchange of ideas to occur on college campuses, it actually comes out 50-50. And when we lose them, because they get jobs and they drop that crazy socialist ideology. So what we have to do is, instead of actually fight for these ideas, let's just shut up the other side.
Yep.
Let's make it impossible for conservative ideas to be expressed on college campuses. And that's why you are seeing, at record pace,
Yep,
conservative speakers shouted down. And this state has been a hallmark example of how to shred the First Amendment. Look no further than UC Berkeley, where they tried to bring Ann Coulter in because Antifa showed up. They canceled the event, or it cost $600,000
right,
to bring Ben Shapiro to the campus of UC Berkeley. But that's intentional.
Yep.
The left wants to make it nearly impossible, if not ridiculously expensive, to bring a conservative on campus, because the left hates the idea that there are other ideas. Let me say that again. The left hates the idea that there are other ideas. The least tolerant people in the world are those people preaching tolerance. With their little tolerance bumper stickers, driving around in their, environmentally friendly Priuses. They're the first ones that are going to be smashing the windows and, punching Trump supporters in the face, or, burning down signs that they don't agree with. Those are the tolerant ones. And we always say, we're now over 1,100 college and high school campuses across the country, and every single day, our students have to endure the leftist indoctrination in the classroom, in the hallways, from their peers, and yet we just want to have one conservative speaker come for 30 minutes that you don't have to show up for, and all hell breaks loose. Seriously, they bring in masks, they bring in all sorts of different professional protesters. I spoke at Cleveland State University a couple days ago, and they had their Antifa protesters, and coming up for me. I was like, come on, give me a break. And of course, trying to continually shout down me as a speaker and interrupt me and storm the stage and all that. We didn't let them win, but of course, we had to pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in security costs to make sure that event went on. But what the most amazing thing was the thunderous applause and the silent majority that is on college campuses that believes in these fundamental values. And really, what the left is doing is they are creating such distance between what I consider just normal common sense perspectives and their now new political position. Their political position is, we hate America, we hate the Constitution, we believe there are no genders, capitalism is a terrible thing, Donald Trump is a Nazi racist equivalent of Adolf Hitler, and if you don't elect us, then the whole world is going to blow up. That's their new political position. What it does is it allows us to win over people in the center right or center left that used to consider themselves Democrats. For example, I was on campus and I said the phrase, here's really what we believe. We believe America's the greatest country in the history of the world. We believe the Constitution is the greatest political document ever written by man, that socialism is a great horror of humanity and must be stopped at every turn, and free enterprise is the greatest way to solve poverty and ensure prosperity for all. That's it. That's what we believe in our organization, right? It's not that controversial. And despite all that, you know, I say the first one, America's the greatest country in the history of the world. They go nuts because the anti-Americanism within American colleges is so widespread. And they teach it so effectively. And I'll tell you a quick story. I got a call a couple weeks ago from one of our high school chapters in the Northeast. I'm not going to say the school. I might say the school. I shouldn't probably say the school. And the headmaster calls me up and he says, Charlie, we got a serious problem here. He uses Charlie Kirk from Turning Point. I said, yes, we got a serious problem here. I said, what is it? He said, your chapter is putting up these incredibly racially insensitive posters that is causing disagreements and even physical conflict. I said, well, that's quite a charge. I said, what is it? And I hear in the back of my head, I said, oh boy, you know, our chapter probably did something foolish or stupid. He's like, oh no, this is Turning Point branded material. I said, okay, what is it? He said, it's these posters that say America's the greatest country in the history of the world, and they must be taken down immediately. This is not true. This is and this is an American boarding school in the Northeast. I said, listen, okay. I said, I understand you probably have a doctorate, which is why you can't understand what that means. But look, and I wanted to have some fun with him. And I said, like, first of all, what country do you think is even comparable to America? It's like, oh, well, look at the history of India. India! Great, what are you kidding me? Like, they have 600 million people without toilets. I mean, it's like, let's start with India, give me a break. And I
yeah,
said,
Barbara, it sounds like Connecticut.
Because I can't really believe what you're saying. So I gave him my email, and he wrote it all out. He said, this is racially insensitive. This is, at its core, trying to drum up controversy. This is inciting, conflict on camp. I said, you've got, in an American high school, that you can't have a poster that says America's the greatest country in the history of the world. And this is the struggle that we're up against because, and you see it with the kneeling during the national anthem. And you see it for the total disregard for core American values. Where does this start? Where did Kaepernick get these bad ideas? He got them in our universities. He was taught by these leftist professors and administrators that America is a racist, colonialist, misogynist, sexist country, and we stole the land.
Don't forget
and we're not a good
xenophobic and
country,
homophobic.
and that we should apologize. We have nothing to apologize. We should be applauding and appreciating that the greatest experiment in humanity has liberated more people out of poverty, out of suffering, and into prosperity has been this country. It's not Norway, Sweden, France, Portugal, Argentina, and definitely not Venezuela that is leading the charge in innovation, in cultural advances, in economic progress, or even military strength. When there's a conflict, America is always the first country to step up and steps up the biggest. We have 5% of the world's population, yet we lead in virtually every single category. Most Nobel Prizes, biggest companies, most economic productivity, most entrepreneurs per capita. And it's not because we have the most natural resources or friendly neighbors. Russia has 10 times the size of natural resources we do. It's because we've embraced this idea of self-governance. We've embraced the idea that individuals pursuing their own self-interest, free of government coercion, can make everyone richer and everyone better. And this is exactly what the left is trying to destroy. They want to make this country look like some sort of hybrid of Portugal, France, and Germany. They want to turn America into the European Union. And as long as I'm fighting, we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let that happen here. We're not going to let that happen in my lifetime. Not going to happen. But here's the biggest problem. And my biggest point of frustration of the last year has not been the Democrats. The Democrats, fine. All right, you're card-carrying Marxist, far to the left. You're subscribing to an ideology that you can't even articulate. Look no further than that Congresswoman Wilson. She doesn't even understand what's going on. And here's the real problem. The problem are people with R's in front of their names that are not upholding and doing what they said they would. That is the problem.
And we got a lot of them in California. We have at least 8 of them in California. And they're sitting in the legislature. And they're stealing our money.
But when you have,
people
that run on the promise of repeal Obamacare, raise hundreds of millions of dollars on that promise, and then vote for it, but they know it's never going to become law because President Obama's president, and then when they have time to really vote for it, it dies in the Senate. That's exactly why this country's in the shape that it's in. And if Republicans did what they said they were going to do and upheld their words on the campaign trail in the halls of Congress, we would have a much different looking country today. I'll tell you what, a much different looking country. Much different. And And this is why primaries are so important. This is why we have to hold our elected officials accountable. It's not just about getting majorities in Congress. I'm very happy we're getting a tax cut. I think that's great. But by now, we should have Obamacare repealed, Dodd-Frank in the can. We should be on our path to a balanced budget. You know, we should be able to have solvency in our entitlement programs.
Right to work.
Across the board spending cuts. We should have at-will termination of government employees. We should have unilateral school choice. We don't have any of that. And that's because Congress is so entrenched with the special interests that own both parties.
That's right.
And that is what I think is going to be the defining moment of the Trump presidency. Are the people going to rise up again and kick these people out that are beholden to this bipartisan deal to grow government, to shrink freedom, and to protect their own political power? Donald Trump won because he ran in defiance of all of that. He said, I'm going to drain the swamp. I don't need the media. I don't need the Republican Party. I don't need your special interest donors. And no one gave him a chance, but people all across the country rose up and voted for the first time in 30 years. Democrats who'd never voted for a Republican before came up and they said, this is the guy I'm going to support. Now, you had the very party that was supposed to support him, the people in that party opposing him at every turn. And that is why we need, as everyone in this room, need to keep on holding them accountable. And it starts with your dollars. It starts with your dollars, not contributing to these politicians that do that, and also supporting the ones that do a very good job of advancing these legislative items. You know, I spent some time on the campaign trail personally with Donald Trump Jr. running some of the millennial operations. He's a phenomenal guy. I think the Trump siblings are some of the greatest people I've ever had time to spend around. Eric, you know, Don Jr., Ivanka, absolutely incredible people. And we would always joke around on the campaign trail. We were at a rally in Michigan, and people would come up to us and say, "Hey, I'm voting for your father. Don't tell my wife." And then, you know, he would run off, and then the wife would come up to me, I'm voting for your father. Don't tell her. Keep that in the down. And we called those whisper votes. You know, like, how many did you hear, right? I think I got at least 30 at this event. And then, you know, I remember the day before the election, we were in Michigan when there was 80 guys still in their overalls with UAW pins, United Auto Workers. And I went up to them and shook all their hands. I said, what's going on? They said, our whole plant, every one of us are voting for Donald Trump. First Republican voting.
Wow.
And those are the forgotten men and women that the Democratic Party left behind.
Yep.
Because if you look consistently, when the Democratic Party promises something to a certain group of people, you can guarantee within 20 or 30 years they're going to be worse off, further into debt, more poor, and more miserable. And it finally took a candidate that communicated to the middle class, to the people that woke up early and made stuff in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Ohio, in Iowa, in Pennsylvania, that wanted the dignity of work. They didn't want what Hillary wanted to give them. What I thought was one of the most powerful moments of the presidential campaign is when she was at a coal mine and she said, oh no, I'm going to not get your jobs back, but I'll give you free stuff. And these coal miners said, what are you talking about? We want the dignity of being able to go to work. We want to be able to wake up and look my wife in the eye and look my kids and say, I did something of value, be able to earn a raise and be able to put food on the table. I don't want a government benefit. And she couldn't compute that. She really couldn't. She said, what? And of course that was, I mean, she lost all of coal country all the way up the Allegheny Valley immediately because she couldn't comprehend that there's still people in this country that want to work. And I think what the Republican Party is going to become, what we have to become, is they're going to become the party of free stuff. We have to become the party of freedom and work. We're going to become the party of people that wake up early, stay late, that have the dignity of wanting to produce for your family and the people you care about. They're going to be the party that gives you a bunch of stuff, just enough to keep you coming back to the ballot box, but they're not going to be able to liberate you from the suffering that you're enduring. They're not going to be able to have you rise up to a higher socioeconomic ladder. Our party, we're the party that's going to stand with the forgotten men and women of all across the country, not one segment of the population, not just the states that we need to win. You know, as Hillary Clinton would always say, you know, I'm going to do really well in my parts. There's no my parts or your parts. You know, that's exactly how the Democrats look at politics. It's, I'm only going to get the votes that I need. You know, and then I'll forget about all the rest of them. And you know what? The people that they forgot for 30 years ended up taking down the blue wall, which I thought was one of the greatest moments of my life I ever saw.
Absolutely.
The coolest thing I ever saw. And so, as we look at the fight ahead of us, and especially what's going on in our college campuses, a couple kind of calls to action, which is extremely important. Number one, we need more alumni activism within your schools. And that also means if you're contributing to your university and you think that money is going to a good cause, look into that a little bit further. You'd be amazed at how some of these universities take contributions and steer them in a direction that is not exactly the intent. But also you have to ask yourself the question, is that the biggest impact that my dollars are going to have? Do I want to continue, for example, if someone in here went to Harvard or Yale or even UC Berkeley, do I want to give my money to the problem? Do I want to give my money to a university that their mission statement involves targeting conservatives and their track record has been continuing a very divisive leftist ideology that is destroying this country? And so look at organizations or other areas where your dollars can actually make an impact to help solve the problem, which is why our organization has had so much success over the last couple of years, where we go to donors and alumni that are fed up with seeing these endowments grow and grow and grow. And you see Harvard has a $45 billion endowment. I mean, imagine
his name is Charlie Kirk.
Do with an endowment like that. And by the way, George Soros just transferred $17 billion into his foundation. So this is a fight that we're going to be going up against for a long time. So we need more alumni activism. But it also is how we train and prepare high school students to go into college. Because I can't tell you, and I'm sure a lot of people in this audience have this experience, how many good, young, conservative, constitutionally believing high schoolers that I see going to college and they come back as leftist, social justice warrior, unrecognizable, Bernie Sanders card-carrying, way to the left. I said, what happened? And they say, oh, well, college happened, and I'm much smarter now, and I understand how terrible this country is, blah, 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 blah. So it has to start with the high school education, and that is, I think, the most powerful high school education starts at home, and educating on these values from a very, very young age. And to kind of give you an idea of how big this movement is from the left, make no mistake that we were very, very close to seeing a socialist president, not just Hillary, but Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, as an open socialist, got 18 million votes in the Democratic primary.
Yeah.
Most of those votes were people under the age of 30. And I never thought that we would see an open socialist gain this kind of traction, the most disastrous ideology and political philosophy ever tried and experimented is now having real political relevancy on the national stage. And that is why the fight for the future and the soul of this country could not be more important. And it has to start on our college campuses, because there's 27 million people right now on college campuses across the country. And you can give, without a shadow of a doubt, almost every single one of them are hearing this leftist nonsense. But the one time that they hear a different idea, they run to it. They say, I see something. This resonates to me differently. And this is what the left fears most. They fear that a generation might actually hear the other side of these issues.
Yes.
That they might actually be able to be turned away from the indoctrination complex that they have created. And this has been a 60-year fight for them. They've been doing this since the 1960s, indoctrinating and turning young people towards leftism from true American values. And so this is the fight. This is the struggle. And it has to start with people, in this room. And, thank God that President Trump won that election, because I don't know if the opportunity that we would have. But make no mistake, it's not just good enough to win elections. We also have to win hearts and minds, and we have to reform the most crucial cultural shaping institutions in our country, and that is our college and high school campuses. And with the work that we're doing every single day, that is a fight that we are going to win. So thank you so much for having me today. Thank you.
All right. It's too bad some of the people left. That's unfortunate. People complain about the younger generation not hearing these ideals, and you've got somebody
Charlie
right here.
Kirk. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you too. Please join us in the Platinum Ballroom for tonight's dinner featuring Senator Tom Cotton. Doors will open promptly at 7 p.m., so be there.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you again.
Good, Brian.
Yeah, Brian Phelps DeHesta on Facebook. We were up at Berkeley together.
Oh, yeah, you were there?
Hey,
Daryl.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, check them out, veterans. There you go. All right. Awesome.
We got our shirts on today.
Awesome. So you guys, you were there in late August? Or
I was there 15th, 27th.
I was there.
The day, we weren't there the day you were there.
Okay, I recognize you. Yeah, in April.
Yeah,
okay,
April
I remember.
15th we were there. April 27th we were there. We were there March 4th.
Oh, brother. So I had hope, but I got to feel some of the action too, and that's okay because it really turned the tide. We really.
That was an important event.
We
because it was covered. That was a problem.
We won the media war, and Antifa is now a terrorist group, and it makes me really, the resolve to go back again is really strong. But it was just we want to make sure I'm in Torrance, so it's like El Camino's a good place. I might want to start going just to shake them up and make the kids swelter a little bit. So good to see you guys.
It's great to see
all the
you.
way. Did you fly here from Santa Cruz,
No,
or
we drove.
you're both from Santa Cruz?
Yeah.
Oh,
We're on the
God.
Central Committee.
Okay.
I'm a delegate.
Okay. Do you know? Okay, so
Treasurer.
I know Mike LaLure. He's in,
Yeah,
but he's
a good friend of mine.
but
He
he's
got
in
me involved.
he's in Monterey County.
He's in Santa Cruz.
Oh, Santa Cruz also.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good
there you
friend
go.
of mine.
Nice.
Good friend of
Okay. We're all making sure we kick butt there, guys. Absolutely. So, way to go, banana slugs. Okay.
Thanks for all your work.
Absolutely.
Appreciate what
For
you're doing.
standing up.
Oh,
They're
absolutely.
pelting you up there, man. I'll tell you. Cowards.
Oh, absolutely.
That elephant, so you really came through.
It was like it was a real miracle. It was a total miracle what happened. They just like make sure we could see you guys. It was a total miracle having them show up to rescue me at that last minute. Finally, a police officer shows up.
Yeah.
It's I'm just hoping that they start cutting funding. I talked to some of the attorney general candidates. They'll start cracking down on these schools. If you're not going to do your job, we'll take your money. I don't see why not. To certify the city, that works for me.
Deputize us.
Yeah.
We're doing their job
How
for
about
free.
how about I should be allowed to protect myself? Wait a minute, isn't there something called the Second Amendment, and yet I can't exercise my rights?
I had a fellow who threw a knife at me.
Threw a
I turned it in. I reported it. Wrote the whole thing up. And they still haven't done anything with it. But they found to prosecute Kyle for defending himself.
Yeah,
Isn't that sick?
it is. Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is Alameda County.
No, this was Berkeley. At Berkeley.
Yeah, Alameda County.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. So yeah, it's like this is a last-ditch effort to try to intimidate, to prevent people from showing up.
Yeah, they operate in the shadows because they've been able to intimidate for so long, and suddenly now we're there as witnesses to that violence. And we say, that's not legal. You know, you can't just attack people because you don't like what they're thinking like that. And lying about who we are. Basically, Americans, veterans, people that like America, people that believe in our Constitution. You know, some pretty basic things people take for granted. For a university that prides itself on such, expertise, they are pretty basic in just simple civil rights, basic humanity.
Claiming that they're a free speech bastion is unthinkable. All right.
What do you think of the tone of the convention so far? I mean,
It's combative and alive. It's energized. I am definitely not playing nice when I'm here. I've scared off some people already. That's good. I'm glad to hear. I think the speakers know what we're going through, and there's that anti-establishment sensitivity here, which is so crucial. We've got a lot of things to change and a lot of bad leadership to get rid of and replace it with new blood, new ideas, a willingness to fight, especially what Grover said. I loved it, that we compromise does not mean that we keep losing and let them get a little more, because that's exactly what's been happening in this state. It's just they keep saying, let's be Democrat light, and it's not working. It's absolutely killing us.
People here should also be rallying around and funding people who are taking the lead.
Yeah.
Like Kyle, and standing up and having medical bills or legal bills, and support the people that are doing the things that they can so they won't. And so that's part of the message that I think people should take away from here. So let's start supporting the people at the front.
Absolutely. I'm going to wrap this up. So, Daryl, good to see you. Thanks a lot, Brian.
The tone this year, though.
Give me a few minutes. I'll just wrap this up. So you got to see two veterans right there. They were there with me in Berkeley, so they did an excellent job. This was really good. A friend of mine, Joseph Turner, you all should know very well. Joseph helped me to get here. I almost didn't make it. Daryl, I'm going to once again go off with what he just shared. For me to keep doing what I'm doing, I do need you to start donating. There are those of you who have helped out. Please continue to do so. I've left some information for how to donate to me. I will type it one more time. So I have a PayPal account. It's arthurschaper@hotmail.com. That's the way to do it. I love being able to do what I'm doing. I love that every one of you is able to help me out. Thank you so much. So I'll put that there. I will be going live as soon as I can when another big event comes. So thank you so much for following. And tune in, let's say maybe about an hour, half an hour. We'll see what happens next. Thanks again for watching, everybody.